Hello, everyone. So, firstly, this is a very grandiose title for a very, very simple subject, which is essentially a book review blog that I started 2 years ago. And also, speaking of failing, I was sitting there earlier thinking, what did I not include in this presentation? Did I include the actual URL of the blog? No, I did not. Because I was like, do you know what's fine? I'm going to do a live thing on the website. I don't even need to include images. I'm going to show everyone on the website. So it's a very boring presentation, but we'll go through it. But anyway, the URL for the website, if you want to look it up, is librarystaffpicks.wordpress.com, just so you kind of have an idea of what I'm talking about. So I set up this blog in 2016, and I was based in Ballyroan Library at the time. And it was called Ballyroan Reads. It's now called South Dublin Reads as of the 1st of March, just to better reflect. We all got moved everywhere else, so now it's South Dublin Reads. Ballyroan Reads is essentially a staff book review blog. It's an extension of a recommendation service of people going, what's good, what have you read, what should I be reading now? And we're all book crazy, being librarians, so we all read everything, and the idea was to put that in a concrete format. So the format is all of the contributors we have contribute one 250-word review every month. That's it, and then I do all the rest of the work. We were very lucky to win and I put this up top so we can get into the failure thereafter. We were very lucky to win the blog award for best books in literature this year. So yay, go us. And that was a really good motivator. I'll talk later a little bit about kind of keeping your contributors and staff engaged, and that was a really good motivator. Applying for that process and actually winning the category was for our contributors. So in terms of the practicalities, we have we have 8 to 10 contributors on board. As I said, they do a short review a month. Everything is scheduled kind of 2 to 3 months in advance because people have lives and people forget to submit reviews or people work in busy branches. Social media is quite important as well, just in terms of getting the word out there. In regards to blogging, it often feels like you can be shouting into the wind. What's interesting, though, is that I haven't found that to be the case. Since we've started, we've had 23,000 views over 2 years, so it's about 11,000 a year. We're coming up to our 2-year anniversary now. Interestingly as well, it's a global and not just a local readership. I have our little library blog has readers in the States and Australia and everything else. And in a way, it's a good promotion. It wasn't intended that way, but it turned into a very good promotional tool for South Dublin Libraries because people all over the world have now heard of South Dublin Libraries and our library authority. We have regular readers and commenters, and it's kind of amazing. But what's great as well is people have come into me in the branch when I was working there going, oh, I read that review of that book on that blog that you do, and not knowing it was me. So that was personally very gratifying. But you're not shouting into the wind. I think what's important is that we'll come on to content and keeping things regular and consistent in terms of blogging is the most important thing you can absolutely do. In terms of pitfalls or things to be wary of, images and tags. Tagging is a major pain in terms of blogging, but it is important, and the annoying thing about tagging in particular is best practice on it in terms of tagging a blog post or tagging in social media. It seems to change very, very quickly. Like only in the past few months I've kind of heard, oh no, less tags is a lot better than more tags, whereas previously a year ago when I was doing social media assignments for college, it was 10 to 15 tags would be what you would use, whereas now they're like the less is better. So it kind of changes. And it also changes depending on what platform you're using. Book review, which is a very obvious tag, is really good for kind of attracting new users if you were using things like WordPress. But place like Instagram, the tag Bookstagram works better. And I was actually thinking as well, this is something that is easily replicable by anybody who wants to do it for any kind of collection or anything like that. But it doesn't have to be a WordPress blog. It could easily be an Instagram account. You know, that is itself. It's the cover of a book and a little review underneath. So you can use it in any different format. Obviously, bright, colourful images, and if you need a source, Pixabay. There's also a great blog post on Hootsuite, which I didn't link to because failing. And it's 21 21 great free image sites. So there's Pixabay and Gratisography, and there's a whole list. If you just search Hootsuite Pixabay blog, you'll find it instantly. Getting the word out there to the readers, but also to the authors that you are reviewing as well. Now, obviously, if you write a bad review, which we do on our website, I will say, we're brave, we put them up. I won't tag them. But if you write a good review, I'll absolutely tag them. So targeting and tagging authors can be a log slot, but when it works really well. We once had I think it was nearly 600 views in one day from a well-known author reposting a review of their blog and kind of actually writing a blog post about it themselves. So it can be time consuming, but it's just another tag, it's another hashtag, it's another @ symbol. It's not going to take that much time. It's something I would suggest doing. Try and engage as many people as you can. In regards to the content, as I was saying, find what works for you and post regularly. We post Monday to Friday, and we've posted 5 days a week since we started, pretty much. So posting consistently at a consistent time. There's great debate amongst bloggers and amongst kind of librarians who blog about what times are good and what times are bad. Obviously, things like 5:30 is great for catching people on the bus. Thursday evening seems to be really popular. Before bed, a lot of people on their phones. Silly things like that if you can kind of just think of when you're posting. Obviously, make it sharp and engaging. Don't be afraid to try new things and have new features. I'll try new. If a blog post isn't working or a series isn't working, take it down and change it. I wanted to expand when I started, and as well as having the 2 book reviews each week, I have this feature called Brilliant Book Titles, which is very simple to put together. It's the cover, it's a link to our library catalogue, and it's the Amazon blurb. That's it. That's the blog post. But what's important as well, that I haven't mentioned previously, is every single book, where possible, unless it's like an ebook that one of the contributors reads a lot of romance and they're hard to come by. But every single book is linked to our catalogue, so it's acting as a marketing tool. Everything is linked back, so you can immediately go in and reserve that from reading that review or seeing the Brilliant Book Title. We also have a feature on Wednesdays, which is new books to watch out for, new film books, new TV books, I've done every kind of category you can imagine, probably at least twice, but it's quite interesting and you can get quite specific with them as well. I've also done special features as a result of interacting and being criticised by the audience. Actually, I put up a post on romance and I got a comment saying, "Oh, why is it just for this group? Why have you not got all these other types of romance?" And I was like, actually, that's perfectly valid, and it was Pride Month at the time, so I did a whole series that went up on the Sundays and was really well received. But we've also done other things like most popular books in libraries and stuff like that, and that's a note to myself which I shouldn't have really left in for this presentation today, which went well and I must go back to. So I suppose this is kind of a potted history of it, but I would say, I'm quite happy with the level of views and the level of commenters, but I really do think the stats aren't everything. I think building an engaged readership locally and internationally, which is very, very easy. There's a very active book blogging community out there that heavily use social media, heavily use sites like Goodreads and WordPress, and it can be very beneficial to market your service to them. And quite simply, for relatively little effort, especially if you're a contributor, it's essentially you're writing an email once a month. It's nothing more involved than that. Obviously, it's a bit more involved for me putting it together, but it's still quite manageable. And it gives you a global reach as well. Interestingly as well, the staff kind of really respond to it because it does harness their creativity. It is a creative outlet. It's it's a piece of writing that they're doing. It's something different that they're doing to break up their day. But it's also, importantly, it's a living extension of our catalogue. It's a book index. It's a recommendation service. It's a catalogue in and of itself in a lot of ways. It's something that they were talking about catalogue records and kind of descriptions. It's something like I had written another article about fiction classification, and they were talking about the impossibility, like how difficult it is to classify fiction. It's something that could be potentially used, this is grandiose again, but it could be potentially used to kind of as a resource for, this is This is something that you can use to recommend to people. And ultimately, and finally, it's just simply a good way to promote your library stock. So that's it, and thank you very much for listening.